Hi, this is Bee Red with Queen Bee Scraps, and I'm going to show you in today's video how to make this bridge fold card using the Spirited Snowman stamp set from Stampin' Up. So before I get started, I would like to just invite you to my online store. It is located at www.bredsu.stampinup.net. That is where you can go to my 24/7 online store to purchase any of the materials that I use here today, because they will all be from Stampin' Up. If you would like to see any of my other projects that I've made, you can find them at my Facebook page, which is facebook.com Queen Bee Scraps. So if you have any comments, please leave them and I will try to get to them as soon as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to move this for now. And here is the card that we will be making. I've also done a little envelope. I like to stamp my envelopes to match my cards. Now this card here is an A2 card, and this one is slightly bigger because the inside, the middle panel is 3.5 inches on this one, and this one is 3 inches. We're going to go ahead and make this one today. I'm going to show you how to do it. And the instructions are exactly the same for this, except that the inside panel is 3 inches and the overall length of the base of the card is 8.5 by 4.25. This one is going to be 8 inches by 4.25. Okay, so let me put this one aside. And we're going to do this. Also want to point out to you that I always like to stamp on the back somewhere that you can put your own little sentiments on there when you send your card, because when you do a card like this, there's really nowhere to write on it a sentiment to your recipient of the card. Okay, so that's just a little tip that I do. Also, when you fold this card to go in the envelope, you can either push it down to the right, go flat, or you can push it down to the left and go flat. And I'll show you exactly how that would go in the envelope. Again, this is an A2 envelope, A2 card. I'm going to fold it to the right, and then I'm going to put it in the envelope. Now, because there's so much going on here, I'm going to turn this around so that things don't get caught up on the edge here. And I'm going to slip that right in the envelope. Now, because this is a little bit bulky, you might have to put a little extra postage on this, but I really don't think so, because it's really not that bulky. If you make it any more bulky by putting more dimensionals, you will have to add extra postage on this. So let's go ahead and get started with this card. I'm going to set this up right here. Now, like I said, we are starting with a Whisper White cardstock, and this is my thick Whisper White because the card will be moving quite a bit. So this is 4.25 by 8 inches. This is the sentiment panel, and this is 2 3/4 by 4. And this will be layered on top of the Balmy Blue. And the Balmy Blue is 4.25 by 3 inches. Now that'll be the back panel. So we'll just set that aside for now. These 3 panels, 3 pieces of cardstock, are each 4.25 by 3 inches. Now, the reason why we have 3 of them is because one's going to be the center, and then the other 2 are going to be the 2 side panels. As you can see here, the two side panels, but it's cut. I like to do this process with it one piece of cardstock, and then I'll cut it after I emboss it. So let's go ahead and get that started. So for starters, we are going to score the base, and this is going to be scored at 1 1/4. Okay, and 2 1/2. Now, when I do this, I like to turn the card over because it's going to be a mountain and a valley fold. And when I score, I like to fold into the score. Okay, so that was 1 1/4 and 2 1/2. I'm going to turn the card around, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. 1 1/4. And flip the card, and 2 1/2. Okay, so just let me reiterate what I did here. On this side of the card, I scored it at 1 1/4, and then you can turn it around and 1 1/4. Then I flipped the card over, scored it at 2 1/2, and then on the opposite side, scored it at 2 1/2. That way your score lines are the same for a valley and a mountain fold. Okay, let me set this aside. And I'm going to get my bone folder. Let's see, where is my bone folder? Here it is. And I'm going to fold my base now. So the lines closest, the score lines closest to the center are my valley folds. So I want to fold into the score line, because when you fold into the score line, you have a crisper fold and you don't have a lot of fraying on the outside. Okay, so let's fold into the score line. Get your bone folder and crease that, burnish that really good. And then the outside score lines are mountain folds, so we're going to fold out and burnish our folds. Fold out and burnish the fold. Okay, so now this is what we have. It looks kind of like an M or a W, depending on how you're looking at it. That's the base of the card. Now, we're done with this for now, so we can set that aside. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to do our background embossing. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using these products. So, this is a Snowfall Thinlits and the Snow is Glistening stamp set. The Blizzard Thinlits and the Beautiful Blizzard stamp set. The Spirited Snowman stamp set. This is the Softly Falling Embossing folder. And this is retired, but Stampin' Up! Does have a layered circles framelits. This is the old framelits, and I just didn't see a need to buy the other layered one if I already have this, because this works fine. So that's what I'm using. If you have this, or if you have the other layered circle framelits, that'll work. Or if you don't have that and you have punches, that's fine. You can use that too. So we are first going to start off with the Blizzard Thinlits. Okay, this is a one-piece metal die. Okay, and this is meant to cut through cardstock. So if we were going to cut out a piece of cardstock, it would cut out all these snowflakes. But we're not going to cut. We are going to emboss with this framelit. And I'll show you exactly how we're going to do that. So let me bring over my Big Shot. I'm going to stand up to do this. And I'm going to get my cardstocks. When I do this, I like to spritz my cardstocks very lightly with water, just to kind of soften the fiber in the cardstock. So, to do this, we are going to use the Big Shot Embossing Mats. And this comes with the white plate, a gray rubber, and a blue rubber. Okay, so to emboss, we are going to use the Big Shot platform, and then we are going to use a standard cutting plate. We're going to put our die facing with the cut side up, and the cut side has like a little raised edges on it. The non-cut is flat and very, very flat. You can feel that, the difference. So your cut side is the raised area. You're going to put that down. I'm going to spritz my cardstock, and then I'm going to put that down onto the die. I'm going to use my blue rubber sheet and carefully put this on so that it doesn't move my cardstock. And then I'm going to use the white cutting pad, okay? And run that through the Big Shot. Now this goes really easy. It feels like nothing even happened when you do this. So let's take this sandwich off, and you see, can you see that? How it's all embossed. Isn't that neat? And that's the deboss side. So depending on what look you're after, you can use either side. So let's go ahead and do that again. I'm going to spray my cardstock, put it on there, use the blue sheet, the white plate, and run that through. And we have another embossed piece. One more time. Spray and the blue sheet and the white. And there we have it. So now we're done with that for now. And I can put these embossing mats away. While we have the Big Shot out, I'm going to go ahead and show you the embossing part that I did. Now, these pieces here are embossed with the softly falling embossing folder. So I wanted to show you how I did this. For the bridge part of the card, this piece here, I'm not going to do the blue, the balmy blue, just the Whisper White one. Now, because I have a sentiment on there, I don't want a lot of embossing on that. And the softly falling, it has a bunch of dots at the top, and then it kind of gets a little bit more sparse on the bottom. So that's the way I want this to be embossed. Now, when you emboss, if you see the Sizzix logo, that's the emboss side. If you want to deboss, you do the opposite side. You'll notice that I have this Stampin' Up! Paper on here. This is what the embossing folder came with. And what I do is I cut these out. Let me show you how it looks prior too. Here's one. This is how it comes. And this is a 2 embossing folder set. So this is how the embossing folder comes. I take this off and I cut this out, and then I will put double-sided tape on the back, and I will glue this on, adhere this onto the debossed side of my embossing folder. That way, when I pick this up, I know exactly what it is. This doesn't get displaced from the embossing folder, and it doesn't add really any bulk to your embossing cardstock. I really like having my embossing folders like this. When I have 2, this is a set of 2, like I said, I will keep this intact and make a photocopy, and then just put these 2 pieces on the 2, just like that. So that way I know which is which, and I put on here the name of the product and the product number. Just a little tip that I do. So let's get back to this. So I'm going to emboss this, but like I said, I want the sentiment to be where there's very little snowflakes. So I'm going to put it right to the edge over here. I don't know if you can see that or not. And then there's a lot of snowflakes over here. So I'm going to put that in there. And now I have to change my setup here, because this is set up for die cutting. So, oh, actually it was set up for embossing, so I don't have to change it. So I'm going to go ahead and use the same setup. And I always put the folded side of the embossing folder in first. That way, if you ever have your folder like this and you have it a little bit crooked, it could get frayed on the folded side, and then it could come apart, and you don't want that to happen. So it's best to just put the folded part in the feed first. Okay, and then I'm going to put my other cutting plate on top of that and roll that through. Now this is going to be a little bit tight. And this is what we have. Can you see that? There we go. So that's what I was after. So now we are done with the Big Shot, and I'll set it aside. And we are done with the embossing folder. Now, let me put this die away. I like to put my dies, in case I didn't tell you, what I do with my dies is I always put on here what catalog they came from and how much they were, and if they're a bundle, what the bundle comes with. And I put a piece of a magnet sheet, and these magnet sheets are heat bent covers that I get from like Home Depot or Lowe's. And I just cut a piece to go in between this paper folder for the die, and that way the die will sit on there and it won't fall off. Well, it fell off because I was folding it. Anyways, there it goes. So, and then I can stick this back in the original folder it came from, and then I tuck that in there. I also put this little piece of cardstock behind the name so that you can see the name really good when you are looking through your dies. Just another little tip. Okay, we're done with that. So now we've got this piece of cardstock that we embossed, and it has the sentiment on it. And then I used the, ooh, I don't have it here. Hold on 1 minute. I used this also, the Winter Woods and the In the Woods framelits. I did use this also on this stamp, on this card. So I used this die here to create a kind of a swervy, snowy, hilly effect. And I did that on both the Whisper White and the Balmy Blue. And I kind of did them together so that they kind of matched, so that when it's layered, it looks like a professional did it. And then I just trimmed the bottom of the Whisper White cardstock so that it has like a little bit of a reveal of the balmy blue below it. So that's pretty cool, huh? Okay. Now I also used this die and this die to, I first stamped it with the tree in the winter wood stamp, and then I cut it out with this die here. Okay, and then to get the layered effect, I don't know if you can see that. Let's see. Can you see that in there? How it's kind of layered. Well, anyways, to get that effect, you need to run it through with this die here. And then it kind of makes all these little holes in there, and you get this. Well, let me go ahead and run that through the Big Shot real quick, since we still have it set up. I'm sorry about my dog. She just thinks she owns the world, and so she's barking at the world. So I'm going to go ahead and run this through the die. Oh, I forgot I have to have another shim on here to cut a Thinlits die. Okay. So now I'm going to use my tweezers here to pull this out. And then you can see what I mean. So now this die has these little, like, see-through windows, if you will. It kind of gives it a dimension. And I just folded those all up. And then what I did was I cut a second one so that could sit behind it. So when I glue this on the balmy blue background, it doesn't have blue behind it. It has the pear pizzazz, because that's the color that I used to stamp this with. So let me put this die back in its case, because you don't want to lose any pieces of your dies. And then I'm going to show you how I glued this on. So you can use your fine tip glue pen or glue container, or you can use Tombow, or you can run this through a Xyron machine. But if you ran it through the Xyron, then you would actually glue all the pieces that pop up, and that's not what I want to do. And I find it's pretty easy just to use the Tombow glue. So I just clean off my tip, and then I will glue the edges around where it's not going to touch the pop-up pieces. Okay, see how fast and easy that was? And then I'm just going to glue this onto the other tree. And there we have our little Christmas tree with the background that looks like the rest of the tree. See how sweet that is? Pretty awesome. Oh, getting back to this piece. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these two pieces together because I'm done with the stamping and embossing. So there we have that piece. Now that piece is ready to go. And that piece is ready to go. Now, the pieces that we embossed. Like I said, one is going to be the background to the center. And I can go ahead and glue that on now. Yeah, just checking to make sure I'm gluing the right side, the correct side. Okay. I think I should have made that a little bit not so wide, but we're going to go with that. Okay. Okay. Now, the other pieces, we want to trim those down. And the reason why I had embossed them together is because you get some continuity with the design. So the first, this panel here is 1 1/4, and this is 1 1/4. So I want to make them slightly smaller. So I'm going to make it 1 1/8. I'm going to cut this at 1 1/8. And then that panel will go in here. And then I'm going to cut this one also at 1 1/8. I'm going to use this side of my cutting board because it's easier to see and to hold the cardstock. So 1 1/8. Oh, wait a minute. I just thought of something. I have to turn it because I have the design. See, I was just talking about continuity. So I need to have the 1 1/8 on this side. So I have to turn it around this way. So even though I cut that, it's okay. It'll be fine. So I'm going to cut this piece off. And now it'll go like that. So when I glue these two pieces together, and I don't put a ton of glue on here because I don't want to ooze out all over the place. I want to make sure that it's lined up to the center panel and centered in that section there. And then this one will go on here like so. And even though I cut that, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to really show. So see? There we have it. Now we're going to do the same thing for the other side. So I'm going to do 1 1/8, again using the right side of my trimmer, and that's going to be the inside panel. And then I need 1 1/8 from this side also. So this side will go here. Okay, so let's glue that on so we don't lose track of which goes where. There we go. And then this one goes on right there. I like using Tombow glue because you have a little bit of time to move your pieces around if you need to. And it really bonds very well when you're putting cardstock to cardstock. Okay, so there we have our base together. Now I'm going to go ahead and glue this on to the back. I'm going to kind of make it a little bit to the top because we're going to put some snowy banks on the bottom there. So I just am going across to the branches. And then I'm going to glue this on about right there. Oh, one thing I forgot to do is I forgot to put my glitter on there. But no worries. I think what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to use my Wink of Stella instead. Let's see how much glitter we get with our Wink of Stella. I like using the Wink of Stella because you get that glittery look and it dries really pretty fast. So there we go. Picking up all our pieces. Let's see. Let's see the outside piece. Okay. So what do you think? Doesn't look very glittery, but has a little bit of shimmer on there. I'm okay with that. If I don't like it, I'm going to change that. Okay. Let me get a drink of water. Now, the next step is to put my snowy banks on here. Now, I've already cut out and embossed and inked up some scrap pieces of cardstock, Whisper White cardstock, and I inked it up with some of the Balmy Blue to match. And as you can see, when you put them all together, how cool is that? So these pieces are about 3 inches to go in the center here. Now, when I do that, I want to make sure that I can still close this. And it looks like I need to trim off just a teensy bit on the ends so that when it does close, and it's only going to close on one side, not the other. You know what? I think I'm going to put some glitter here because I'm not really liking that, the way it looks right there. So I've got my embossing buddy here, and I'm going to go ahead and just emboss my cardstock because I don't want glitter all over the place. Okay? And I'm going to use, well, I can use either the 2-way glue pen, which is also retired, or I can use a Versa marker, and this is the same as the Versamark ink pad. Now, I could try to get the Versamark ink pad on those edges by going down like that, but I have to be careful not to get the rest of the cardstock. Let me go ahead and try that. Let me get my this is my glitter. This is iridescent ice and heat and stick. I mixed it together. I did this prior to Stampin' Up! Retiring the heat and stick and the iridescent. You can do this with Dazzling Diamonds also. And it might have some Dazzling Diamonds in there. But they no longer sell the heat and stick. I don't know why, because you really need that to get a good bond with your glitter. So, I don't know. I don't know why they did that. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and try this. I'm going to use the Versamark ink pad to get on my Christmas tree here. Okay, let's cover that up. And then I'm going to pour my glitter mixed with the heat and set. Oh, yay. That looks pretty good. I'm going to turn on my embosser, heat embossing tool, just to heat it up a little bit. Sorry for the noise. And I'm going to heat emboss this so that it sets the glitter into the tree. I'm really liking this a lot more than the Winkostella. So look at that. Can you see the glitter on there now? That looks pretty cool. I like it. Okay, let me go ahead and put this back in its container. And I am using coffee filters because they don't, you can clean up really good with that. So now I have my glittered tree on there. I'm so happy. And then these are my pieces of cardstock. Like I said, I did the same thing. I used the Versamark ink pad, and I just did that with the ink pad. And then I used the heat and stick mixed with the iridescent ice, and then I heat set that onto each of my pieces of cardstock here. So the first piece is going to be glued on like that. I think I like that piece there. So let me glue that on. I like to make sure I get the glue right on the edges of the corner, especially because I don't like my corners to pop up. And then I'm going to stick that on there about there. Okay? So the next piece I'm going to use is a 1/2 inch. I forgot to tell you, this is a 1/2 inch by 4. I think it's 4. Yes. 1/2 inch by 4, and it's scored at a 1/2 inch and a 1/2 inch on each side. This is my little, what I call my mini bridge of this card. Okay, because it's going to be in the center there to act like a little bridge for my little snowman that's on the skates. This guy here. Okay. So before I put that on the card, I'm going to add a couple of pieces of cardstock on here, and I think I really like, let's see, I think I like this piece here because it's going to sit pretty high. And the reason why is when we put this bridge on here, you can see that in the back still a little bit. So I like that. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that on here. And I forgot to put glitter on the bridge, but no worries, we can do that. So I'm going to glue that on there. Okay, I'm liking that. Oh, let me straighten that up a little bit. That looks like it might need to be trimmed just a little bit, so it doesn't interfere with the folding of the card. Okay. There we go. I think I might add one more piece on here just to give it a little bit dimension. I am going to trim this off a tiny bit also. Okay. So I think I'm going to do that. Let's add a little bit of glue to the bottom here. And then glue that onto this piece. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and glue my mini bridge in. And this is really simple to do. I put a little bit of glue on there. And then I decide how high I want that to be. And that's just going to glue on just like that. And just hold that on there for a second or two. Make sure you don't have any glue oozing out of the edges. If you do, get your embossing buddy and just tap it on there and use a little brush or something to get the embossing buddy powder off, because you don't want glue to stick to any part of your card when your card is moving. I'm going to use adhesive eraser to take off any glue that was on there, and I could see that there was from the embossing buddy. Now I'm going to glue the other side of this bridge. Let's see. Yes. Okay, so now I'm going to glue the other side by putting a little bit of glue on here. And then I'm going to let's see. Okay, so now I'm just going to fold that over just like that. And then that should glue. That should adhere onto that. Oh, it came off. Okay. I didn't hold it long enough. Let's see. And then that should adhere to the side here. And I think I got some glue on the edges here. So again, I'm going to use my embossing buddy. Sweep that powder away. Use my adhesive remover. Take away any adhesive they may have gotten on that card that I don't want it to be. And there we have our little mini bridge in there. Okay, cool. So now we are going to get our little snowman, our skating snowman, and he is right here. So you may be inquiring as to, is there a die for this Spirited Snowman stamp set? And the answer is absolutely not. However, what I did was I stamped out a bunch of my snowman on a piece of Whisper White cardstock, and then I ran it through my Scan and Cut. So I have several images that are cut out. Now, put this over here so you can see. So I have several images cut out. And then I also had my Scan and Cut out cardstock without the image, because I don't need the image on these pieces, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere the images onto these pieces just to give them a little bit more stability. Now the color cardstock, and this is the gray granite cardstock, it's a little bit heavier cardstock than the Whisper White cardstock. And so that's why I'm going to go ahead and adhere that. I love my Scan and Cut, and this is one of the reasons why. I'm going to put those aside. So very quickly, I'm going to color these to show you just how fast this goes. So I have my markers here. I put them in a little container here, and that way I know what I'm going to be using. So let me go ahead and show you how fast this goes. So I did his little boots in red. And for the most part, I am using just the Stampin' markers. You might see my head in here just because I have to get a little close to see what I'm doing. And I really like doing this kind of work just because it's kind of relaxing and because I just love the detail that this gives on your cards. It shows the recipient that you took time to make this card. Let's see, I think this is the band. Yeah. Now, for the heart, I did not do it with the Stampin' Marker because I want it to look, you know, a little bit blended. So I used the Real Red Stampin' Blends marker. You can see it's a little different shade than the Stampin' Marker. And then I used the dark Real Red to go around it, just to kind of highlight it a little bit. Give it a little bit of shadow, just like that. Okay, and I used my shaded spruce dark for the hollies in her hat. Okay, and then I'm going to use the Balmy Blue marker on her hat. And I find if I don't press very hard, it doesn't come out quite as dark. Okay. And then I'm going to also color her scarf in the same Balmy Blue. This is a new marker, and you can see that it's kind of dried out already, and I don't know why, because I haven't really used it that much. So I'm going to do her ribbon around her waist here. If I go over this several times, it kind of darkens it up. What I want it to do. So when you're coloring, you really want to give some shadow to the pieces that you're coloring. It really kind of gives it some dimension. Now on his, this has some powder on here from the Embossing Buddy, and I don't like the way that feels. Whoops. There he is. Okay. Let's see, I'm going to use, this is Seafoam, soft seafoam. I'm going to use this for his scarf. Oops. There. Some colors are pretty light and you really can't do a lot of shading on them, but I try. Now I'm going to use Pineapple Punch for the center stripe of the scarf. Okay, I'm going to use Pineapple Punch on this scarf also, and his hat. I really like this snowman. He just looks so playful, so like he's having so much fun. Okay, I'm going to use the soft seafoam also for this guy's hat and scarf. think I was supposed to use Balmy Blue, but that's okay. I'm going to use this color. Okay, I'm also going to use this soft sea foam for his boots. And I'm going to use the Balmy Blue for his hat also. So see how I'm just going over and darkening it a little bit? I don't know if you can see that. Okay, I'm going to use black for his heels of his boots, ski boots or ice skating boots, and also for his. Okay, and then I'm using Smoky Slate for their buttons, because I don't want the buttons to look super black. I just want them to look a little dark. Just like that. I'm using Pumpkin Pie, of course, for their carrot noses. Okay. And then I'm going to use Crumb Cake for their arms and legs, because they are exposing a little bit of legs. I can see I didn't finish the scarf on that guy. And I'm going to do his arm in the crumb cake. And then I'm going to use Sahara Sand on her arms, just because she's a lady and they should be a little bit lighter, right? All right. Okay, I'm going to finish up his hat and scarf. That's the Balmy Blue. And do the scarf. I hope I don't have my head in the way. Sorry if I do. Oh, I forgot to do their little legs. You can barely see, but their legs are exposed a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to get some soft sea foam for the rest of the hat. Again, just kind of going a little bit darker on the sides there to get a little highlight. With the Stampin' Markers, if you let them dry and then go back over, you can get a little highlight. Just like that. Okay, so now I just need to do his top hat, and I'm going to use the Smoky Slate. Probably should have used the gray granite. Let me try gray granite. I think it's a little bit lighter. Yeah. And then that way I could do a little bit of shading. Okay, so then I'm going to shade this a little bit with the Smoky Slate. Just like that. Okay, I think we are done with the coloring. See how fast that was? Super, super simple. And then I just adhere these onto these cardstocks, and just to give them a little bit of stability. So again, with my Tombow glue, try not to put too much, especially on these little pieces, these little small arms and legs. And then I will get my tweezers to help me put that on there. And again, with the Tombow glue, you have a little bit of time to move things around. There we go. All right. I'm going to put these guys on. I don't know if you noticed that this stamp, when you stamp it, it has these little pieces here that make it look like the snow where they're standing, and my scanning cut actually cut that out. I thought that was pretty cool. So before I glue this guy on, I'm going to get a little piece of window sheet and put that between the layers because, oh, I'm going to cut my finger, because he's going to be in the snowbanks there, and I want him to be on acetate. So I'm going to stick a piece of acetate in here. Actually, it's window sheet. Just put some glue there, and the Tombow works really good with this. See that? And now I'm going to glue the rest of this guy on to his layer. And because this guy is actually kind of in the air in the middle, it's important for him to have that extra layer of cardstock for some stability. Oops, picked him up. And there we have it. Pretty sweet, huh? Okay. Now, the other thing is this guy here has this piece of window sheet where he's playing with some snowballs. And I'm going to cut that out of this window sheet here using the Big Shot. Now that I've got everything on top of my Big Shot, let me move my markers and all the stamps. Let's stick those over there too. And then we're going to cut out a circle using the circle dies right here. And I believe I used this die here. Yes. And here is my, I'm just going to go off camera here for a minute and cut this piece of window sheet. So I didn't make a complete circle, it's flat right here. Because it doesn't need to be a complete circle, we're just going to glue him on right there like that. I don't know if you can see that. Let's see. Can you see the window sheet? Okay. So I'm just going to glue him on that window sheet. And again, we don't need to put a lot of glue because with the window sheet it kind of oozes a little bit. Now once you get this on, you don't want to move it around because the glue will show on the window sheet. And you don't want that because it will show and it would not look good. Okay, so we're done with that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and stick this guy on, and he's going to, I'm going to put the window sheet in the back of this layer, and then his feet will be in the front. His skates will be in the front, just like that. So I could put him at an angle like that and make him look like he's skating, actually skating. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and again, I'm just going to put a little bit. You can use glue dots for this, for sure. But I'm just using the Tombow because again, it gives me a little bit of time in between. So there we go. There's our little guy. And I do feel a little bit of glue that oozed out a little bit on the back. So I'm going to just get my good old embossing buddy and stick that in there a little bit. Get that glue sticky out. There we go. It's all out. Okay. Isn't that cute already so far? I love it. So adorable. Okay, so the next part is going to be putting the bridge on here. And I want to get some glitter on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring back my glitter. And again, like I said, this has heat and stick along with the iridescent ice. I'm going to use my Versamark ink pad and just rub it over the top of the cardstock here. It doesn't have to be very heavy. It just has to be on there. Okay, and then I'll pour this. Shake it off. And that looks like I got some pretty good coverage on there. Move that aside. Okay, I'm going to put my heat gun on, my heat tool. I want it to heat up first before I put it on the glitter. Now when you do this, you want to heat it up just to the point where you can see the emulsion changing from a matte to a glossy, or almost transparent in this case. You don't want to overheat it because then you'll melt it and it'll just come off. So that's good, just like that. Now I'm going to put this glitter back in its container. I always use 2 coffee filters, so that way if there's any that comes out when I do that, it goes into the other coffee filter and not all over my desk. And if I do get glitter on my desk, I use a Swiffer dusting cloth to pick it up, because that's what it does, picks up dust. And that is glitter dust. Okay, so now we are ready to put this piece on here. And so you see it will fold either way. That's a good thing. Okay, so let's go ahead and glue this on. And I'm going to, what I do is I kind of mark where I'm going to put this. And it's only going to, I made the border, this bridge piece, it's 5.5 inches. So you can have it where it goes to the edge of this and this side of the cardstock and the bottom. That's probably the best way to do it. So that way it stays squared up. But if you lined it up with the balmy blue cardstock, you're going to have about 1/8 of an inch, or maybe even 1/4 of an inch, that it may be too big to fit into the envelope. So I'm going to take it to the edge, the bottom and the left edge here, and I will mark with my finger where I need to put the glue. Okay. So I'm lining this up on the edges, making sure that sticks really good. And then I will do the same over here. Kind of awkward doing it this way. Okay. Then I'm lining that up again with the edges. Pressing on that to make sure it sticks really good. Looks like I got a little bit of glue there, but that's going to be okay. All right. Looking pretty good, huh? Now, these guys here, this is kind of like the mom and pop looking at the kids playing, frolicking in the snow. I think it's just so fun. I'm going to use some dimensionals to pop these guys up. And I'm just going to put dimensionals on the bottom and then maybe on his top hat because she is exposed to the center there and I don't want dimensionals where it doesn't have anything to stick to. So there we go. Take off the protective sheet. And stick them about right there. All right. Okay, so now I have a piece of the new sparkle glimmer sheet here. I just got a little scrap of it. And I'm going to use the, let's see, I don't need these anymore. I'm going to use the Snowfall Thinlits to cut out some snowflakes. And there are a few snowflakes here that I want to get. Why aren't you going down there? So I want this one and this one, and I think this one. Maybe one more. Here we go. We'll do that one. Now, this guy is supposed to be on here like so. He's not sticking on there. We'll deal with you later. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and run these through the Big Shot. So I'll be off screen for a minute. And I just want to remind you that these products are from the 2018-2019 holiday catalog. And that catalog will be ending on January the 2nd. So if there's anything that you are wanting to purchase, my suggestion is that you would do that ASAP, because once these products go out of stock, they will not refill them if they are not going to be carried over to the next catalog. So once they're out, and they cannot be ordered again. Okay, so let me stick these back over here. Okay. Oh, I got one more die here. Am I missing? Oh, here we go. I'm missing a snowflake. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Okay, on this one, I'm going to just get my tweezers and poke through all the pieces that didn't come out on the die. If you use wax paper on your dies, sometimes you don't have to deal with getting all these little pieces out because it cuts through with the wax paper, but I didn't have any with me, so I just have to deal with this. One more little piece there. There we go. So now I have my snowflakes, and I'm going to glue those on. You could use a glue dot, but I think the glue dots might be a little bit big. So So I'm just using some Tombow glue sporadically around the snowflake. And you could decide where you want to put these. It's totally up to you. You could also use your fine tip glue pen to glue these on. Whoops. My clumsiness. And one more, because you can't have 4. You have to have 3 or you have to have 5. Right? Right. Okay. So last is this guy here. I'm going to get my scrap back, and I have my little 1/2-inch circle punch. I'm going to punch out 3 little circles here. Two, three. All right. So I am going to use my mini glue dots to put these snowballs on. There's one. Two. And 3. All right. So now, all we have to do is put this guy on. And he is the funnest part of all, because he's going to get put on with a wobble. A wobbly, I think is what they call them. So I'm going to, let's see. This is kind of hard to get the protective sheets off. There we go. Here's the center, and now the other half. All right, so I'm going to stick the wobbly about right here. I'll take the protective sheet off this side. Let's see. There we go. And then I'm going to stick him on here. Let's see. I guess he can be about right there. There he goes. Isn't he fun? I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. A couple little things I wanted to mention that I forgot to mention. When I die cut an image, I usually will get my black marker, or you can use actually a marker that's kind of banged up, and I will go around, after I've colored it, go around the edges of your image, and it gives your image a really clean, finished look. And I forgot to mention that, but I forgot to do it on these guys because sometimes I forget. But it really gives it a clean, finished image, and that's the way I did these. So just keep that in mind. Now we need to do the back panel, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp that. I'm going to get my Stamparatus. This is also from Stampin' Up. You get 2 magnets with the Stamparatus. And you can buy extra magnets if you want, and also the grid paper. And you can also buy an extra foam that goes underneath it. And I do keep 2 in there because with the photopolymer stamps, you need to have a little bit of extra foam. So I'm going to go ahead and use this stamp set, the Beautiful Blizzard stamp set. I'm going to use this stamp on this piece, and that fits pretty good. Now, when you get the Stamparatus, it does come with 2 acrylic plates. And this is for 1, 2, 3, 4 step stamping. One of the nice things about this stamp positioner is that not only can you do 4th step stamping, but if you wanted an image to be in repeated, you can move your plate and then stamp and move your plate and stamp and move your plate and stamp, depending on your image and how big your cardstock is. It's really awesome for doing stuff like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the stamp. Now, all of my stamp pads have this round blending tool from Ranger, and this is the handle that I use with it to pick up the blending tool. And the reason why is because it's just, they're slim and they can stay in the stamp pad, and when I need to do some blending, I have what I need right here, and I only need 1 handle. And the sponges, you can buy like 10 or 20 of the sponges for pretty inexpensive, and that's what I really like about having the round stamping or the round blending tools. But I don't need that for now. I just wanted to let you know that. I'm going to go ahead and ink this up. This is another beauty of having a Stamparatus, is that you can stamp your image multiple times to get the depth of the ink that you want on your cardstock. And one of the other nice things is that it stamps in the exact same place each and every time to darken your image to the darkness that you want it without ever giving you halos. Isn't that awesome? Now, I clean my stamps with a spritz of water, and I use a microfiber towel. If I was using an acrylic block, I would use my stamp chamois to clean my stamps. I like to clean my stamps right away and put them away right away so they don't get misplaced. Okay, we are done with that. Now we're going to, I forgot one more stamp on here. I'm going to use this from the Beautiful Blizzard. I'm going to use these snowflakes right there in the center. Now, I know that's where you're going to write your sentiment, but this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get a scrap of paper. I'm going to lay it over that. And then I'm going to ink this up. And then I'm going to stamp off, remove my scrap paper, and then stamp my image on my cardstock. And now I have a really light image. So when you want to write, you can write right over that, and it's not going to really impede the area of where you're going to write. Isn't that a great idea? I think so. Okay, let me clean my stamp. We are almost done. Hang that out right there. I'm going to put this on here. I do not skimp on my glue because I put a lot of work into my cards and all my paper projects, and I don't want them falling apart. So I don't want the corners to come up. I want everything to look exactly the way I planned it. So I do not skimp on my glue. I know some people do, but I'm not one of them. I probably use too much glue, but figure more is better. So now we're going to put this on the back here. And our card is done. All right. Now, wouldn't anybody just love to get that card? Look at how fun is that? And the sentiment that we used on the front is sending a blizzard of wishes for a wonderful season. Isn't that pretty? Now, what I do is I stamp my envelopes to match my cards, okay? So I'm going to stamp my envelope, but I also have a trick I'm going to show you. Okay, so I'm going to get my Spirited Snowman and pick one. I think I'm going to use this guy here. I'm going to use my black Memento ink. Make him a little bit darker. Okay. Clean up my stamp. Put him away. And then I'm going to use this stamp to go around, like if he's throwing snowflakes around. So I'm going to start off here, and let's see, where's my this? Okay, so I'm first going to start off there. I'm going to use my Balmy Blue again. Okay, now I'm going to clean it off, and I'm going to move it to the other side over here. I want to move my envelope a little bit. Okay. But before I stamp that, I want to make sure it's exactly where I want it to be. So, stamping up, retired the Stamp-A-Majig. It comes with the handle. I don't know what I did. Oh, here's the handle right here. So, they retired the Stamp-A-Majig, and people, for what I know, got rid of them. But I kept one of mine because I used the plastic sheet, and I'm going to show you how I do that. When I'm stamping like this, I like to use the plastic sheet over my image because I can see my image, and then I can see where my next stamp is, where my next image is going to go, and if it's where I want it to be. So I can see, let me go ahead and do this with black so you can see it. Not that I'm going to do black. So see, that's where the image is going to go. And that's pretty close where I want it. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. I'm going to clean the black off because I don't want it in black. I want it in Balmy Blue. I'm going to move my plastic sheet, Stamp-A-Majig sheet, ink this up, stamp, and once more. Okay, now see that little line there? I pressed too hard on the rubber and it picked up the ink that was on the edge. You have to be careful not to do that. Okay, so I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to clean this off. I'm going to do it one more time because I want the image to go all the way to his hand here. And I probably don't need all the snowflakes, but let's see what we get doing this. Okay, so I'm going to need to move the stamp, or it's actually easier if I move the envelope, because I want it to be like that. Okay, I think that's where it needs to be. Let me clean it off and try it one more time, just to be sure. That's what I like about using this plastic sheet from the Stampin' Majig. You don't have to ruin your cardstock. That's exactly where I want it to go. So let me clean the black off. Move this sheet. And then I'm going to ink this up. I don't need to ink up the whole stamp because it's not going to stamp the whole image. But see how sweet that looks? Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. So let's take this off and see. It looks like he's throwing snowflakes around. So fun, isn't it? Now, one more little tip I'm going to give you. When you color your envelopes, sometimes I use Stampin' Blends. So what I'll do is I'll get a piece of scrap paper and I will stick it in the envelope where the image is, so that when I color it, it's not going to bleed through. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and color this. Oh, I almost used black. Goodness. Color this in. Okay. Get my red. Real red. Oh, his little boots. Of course. Soft seafoam. Crumb cake. This is smoky slate. And last but not least, pumpkin pie. And there we have it. Our Spirited Snowman Christmas card and envelope. Well, that's it, folks, for today's video. Again, if you need anything to make this card and envelope, you can do so by going to my online store at bredsu.stampinup.net. And please stop by my Facebook page at facebook.com/QueenBeeScraps. So please give me a thumbs up if you like this video and share it with all your friends. I don't do a lot of videos because I'm not very good at it. So just keep an eye, and if you subscribe, you'll know when I'm going to post another one. So until next time, thank you for joining me, and I hope to see all your Spirited Snowman Christmas cards too. Bye for now.